For a game about burning souls, the Soulcalibur series has been dimly quiet, with the previous numbered entry, Soulcalibur V, more than 6 years old. Soulcalibur VI is meant to be a revitalization, a clear reminder of why the series was once such a fighting game titan. To accomplish this, Soulcalibur VI goes for a careful strategy of old and new, mixing obvious nostalgia with fresh characters and mechanics. For the most part, it's a method that works wonderfully, making for a game that capably serves many different types of players.
That how you greet folk in this world?
As with any fighting game, a lot rides on the roster. Soulcalibur VI takes the vast majority of its characters from Soul Edge and the first 3 Soulcalibur games. It really speaks to the series' initial concept of weapon-based fighting and the design of the classic characters that everyone is so distinct and enjoyable to play. Slicing into others with a gargantuan sword as Nightmare is just as satisfying as it's always been, and the same goes for wielding less conventional weapons like Ivy's Snake Sword. While the roster of returning characters is by no means comprehensive, Soulcalibur VI grabs many of the most memorable fighters, and it's greatly to its benefit. Even if you haven't played a game in the series in quite some time, there's still probably a lot that will feel instantly recognizable, making it easy to jump into. For those that are creative, Create a Soul is a highly amusing way to make your own custom characters. It's long been a staple of Soulcalibur, and it's fantastic to see it here as well, if only to appreciate the attempts to make popular characters from other games, anime, movies, and television. The new characters add a welcome degree of eccentricity to the otherwise familiar roster. Grow brandishes a double-bladed sword that can be split into 2, and while in a powered-up soul charge state, he quickly teleports. The villain Aswell is one of the most outlandish characters with his maniacal personality as well as his unconventional fighting style. He can summon a variety of weapons for a flurry of furious attacks. Similarly, the guest character, Geralt from The Witcher, is an absolutely perfect match. His two-sword style is a natural fit, and his magical signs add a tremendous sense of flair. Lighting up opponents with the flames of Igni or slowing them down with Irden is both easy to do and does a great job of conveying the flavor of The Witcher in a way that makes sense for Soulcalibur. Geralt is emblematic of Soulcalibur's biggest asset as a whole, how accessible it is. The core structure of horizontal attacks, vertical attacks, and kicks is simple to grasp. Even the most basic of attacks can do considerable damage, and so much of the time, the struggle isn't about understanding how to do something, but rather when to best utilize available options.
Scarlet Flame!
Reversal Edge, a big new mechanic in Soulcalibur VI, reinforces the idea of accessibility. It allows you to absorb a number of blows and launch a counterattack. Once that counterattack hits, you're thrust into a sort of rock-paper-scissors dynamic, where both players choose a move, and depending on the action chosen, they will either win, lose, or avoid the clash. The mechanic feels like a best-of-both-worlds situation. New players who may not have the strongest defense have a one-button way to fend off an assault. At the same time, reversal edges are so easy to punish or avoid if you know what you're doing. The mechanic isn't lowering the skill ceiling in an infuriating way, and better players will more than likely come out on top. Lethal Hits, another new mechanic, provides rewards for striking an opponent under the right circumstances. It's a far more layered mechanic than something like Reversal Edge, and speaks to the depth of the game. Although the fighting may be intuitive, it also takes an abundance of time to become truly skilled. Single-player offerings in many fighting games can often be distressingly thin and undercooked. While Soulcalibur VI isn't exactly a shining beacon in this regard, it still offers a solid amount. In addition to a basic arcade mode, the game features a traditional story mode called Soul Chronicle, where you play as different characters, and it serves as a reboot of the original Soulcalibur story. There are also separate playable mini-stories for every character within Soul Chronicle. Less conventional is Libre of Soul, which is its own story infused with a variety of RPG elements that you play with a custom character. You create a character and journey across a map, gathering weapons and food that gives temporary enhancements. Along the journey, you can dart off in any direction, completing side missions and accumulating more strength. It takes money to travel, and that cost will increase depending on distance as well as natural hazards in the way. There are even blacksmiths who upgrade weapons and hireable mercenaries that will battle for you. These wrinkles, as well as special conditions for each battle, make Libre of Soul slightly refreshing and prove that the genre has plenty of room to move in different directions. The problem with both Soul Chronicle and Libre of Soul is the dreadfully dull method of storytelling. So much of the story is presented with static backgrounds and character heads blathering back and forth. It's particularly dull in Libre of Soul, where so little of the story contains voice dialogue, and the ratio between fighting and talking feels off balance. Maybe this would be okay if the conversations were worthwhile, but so many of them are bloated, accomplishing little and dragging everything out in an especially grating way.
A young girl who was like an elder sister to him.
dedicated to the way of the sword. She looked after Killick as if they were siblings.
Online is mostly standard fare, and based on our experience, connections are generally consistent and of decent quality. Players can compete in ranked matches or casual ones, although it's odd that the only way to do a casual match is to create or search for a lobby. It's a method that feels more cumbersome than simple matchmaking, and it's disappointing that the option isn't available. Soulcalibur VI falls into some of the same pitfalls that plague the genre, namely poor storytelling and a lack of robust and polished online options. Still, the game gets so much right. The fundamental fighting feels great, and the new mechanics only enhance what was already excellent. Soulcalibur VI sets out to revitalize the series, and it largely succeeds, making Soulcalibur genuinely thrilling in a way it hasn't been for an extremely long time. Easy Allies reviews are made possible by generous viewers just like you. If you like what you see, check out patreon.com/easyallies to help us make more. For just $1 a month, you can gain access to weekly updates, spoiler discussions, and exclusive shows.
Ruin you!